Got to say it at the top of the show. Clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com is the email. You guys are the best for sending in these emails. You guys really make this show unique. And I didn't say it at the top of the show last week, and I could tell because we got some, but we didn't get like the slew that we've gotten over the past couple of weeks when we say it at the top of the show. So
Sure.
shout out to you guys. Clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com. Nick, how are you, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I just realized this is episode, I believe it's 33, and I can't believe we've been doing this for as long as we've been doing it, man. I say it every week. It's wild.
Yeah, I one of the things is now we're seeing and talking like to the same people on the platforms, whatever platform they interact on, and we see that they keep giving their 2 cents, and we keep going back and forth. So that's the coolest part of doing this so long, is that now a lot of you have interacted with us in some way, whether that's email or a social platform. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, like, over the last 4 or 5 days, a variety of other videos that we posted have, like, re-engaged the audiences, I guess, and we have a whole bunch of new people talking about videos from a couple weeks back, having discussions, some of them having arguments. Obviously, it is what it is. That's the car world. That's the name of the game. But the Grenadier one, that one riled a lot of feathers, good and bad. People, good experiences, but mostly what I was surprised, and I personally haven't driven them, I've only been around them, was how many complaints we saw about the steering. Not just
I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to defend Ineos' steering. Mm-hmm. Largely, though, that's coming from people that never drove the thing that it's copying, which is the old Defender. Mm-hmm. I have highly restored $250,000, $350,000 that I've had customers spend on Defenders from yesteryear. Actually, one, I think we'll get to it in an email. We had one that was never able to be registered. It was a full restoration. It's now a $250,000 paperweight. That's a true story. But if you've never driven what this is based on, you don't know how bad that vehicle was to drive. It's one of my favorite vehicles ever built. So everybody who owns one, relax. I'm going to own one in my life. Hopefully at that time I'm closer to the beach. I think those are great beach cruisers. But when you look at it, Ineos has things to work out. And I think sometimes in car culture, we got to ask ourselves, are we all rooting on the right things? Mm-hmm. Here's a billionaire that couldn't find a car that he wanted, so he built it. Is it going to have some flaws? Sure. I'm not arguing that. But what do you want your billionaires to do who are into cars? Just go buy F40s and F50s and P1s? What do you want them to do? This guy's building a car. He's going to make it better, I'm sure. They're going to do better design. I'm sure they'll fix the steering on it. But what the product it's based on was not a great car to drive around either. So I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between this guy probably and his team are looking at the thing from the 90s that they're trying to, copy, and that's what they did. And they'll get it better. And then we had a lot of stuff about the B58 engine. There's a lot of people that have, to me, and I don't know what you feel like, Rob, here, but guys, Mercedes and BMW and Audi, at times in their history, they've built really reliable platforms. I get it's not every platform, but the B58 is, by any metric, is a reliable platform. And if you are just going to live under a rock and go, it's a BMW. It's like, okay, I mean, I get it. We know the dings and the chimes. I've owned a bunch of them. But the B58 is a pretty reliable platform, and they chose a good platform for that car.
It's funny you say the chime, because there's those funny videos of BMW owners like driving, and then all of a sudden you hear the ching, the dime or chime or whatever
chime.
It is, and you're like, oh god, right? I had the same experience yesterday. I got new tires, and there's a distinct sound of certain chimes and sounds in your car, right? And you hear the ding, and you're like, oh god, and it's usually when you get the tires, like the sensors have to kind of like work their way into being firstly.
And I got a bad sensor on my BMW, so
you hear it all the time.
You fill up the tire. Mm-hmm. It goes. You reset the sensors in the iDrive.
Yeah.
And you're good. But I'm going down the freeway and I hear that chime and I'm like, oh no, what? Oh, wait a minute, it's that stupid sensor. So look, I mean, you and I are very aware that there are platforms out there that are troublesome. There are things that are like, hey, I get it. When you're having the Ineos conversation, man, I just think sometimes we got to step back as enthusiasts and go, what do you want to root on? You want to pick apart the steering? Cool, man. I don't have a problem having that conversation. But if that's all you're really picking apart, I think they'll get that figured out.
I'm glad you brought that up. And again, for new listeners, because we pick up new guys and gals every single week. Nick and I really don't go over the script for the day, right, or the topics or stories or anything. Like we're really just having a conversation the way him and I would talk on the phone if I was driving back from somewhere on the road
Yeah.
for hours, and it's just him and I talking on the phone about business or cars or whatever. So speaking of rooting on, what would you say? I'm asking you now. What would you be rooting on today? And I asked that because a lot of in the Ineos conversation, in the Super videos, in the Miata video, it's a lot of people complaining about price. And I don't want to sound like I'm not Scrooge McDuck. I'm not a miser with my money, but I'm also not careless with my money.
Sure.
But people saying, $30K for a Miata, what's this guy talking about? I'm like, bro, we're talking about new used cars, 24s, 23s, and they're like 23. Like, yeah, people are buying 23s and 24s that are used, and they're around that price. Same thing for the Ineos. I'm not paying that for $100,000. Bro, they're like mid-60s if you pick up one with like 5,000 miles on it. I understand things have gotten more expensive, but I think we're all rooting on more affordable cars, even if it's in the used market, but especially new.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, unfortunately, in the car world, there are a lot of people that make comments that haven't looked at a sticker recently. Number one, we see that in the Toyota world in spades. I mean, you guys just haven't looked at the stickers. Okay. I mean, I got people actively looking for Toyota 4Runners. You haven't looked at the stickers. If you keep telling me, there's a SR5 for $49,000. Nobody gives a shit about an SR5. I'm tired of hearing about an SR5. Nobody looks for those. No. Nobody. I get it. Your next door neighbor who's trying to go get some groceries and she's 68 years old. Yes, man. We're talking about the parts of the Toyota 4Runner that are the ones that are desirable that people want to buy. Now, whether they can afford them or not is a different conversation. Yeah. But that's the ones, if you talk to salespeople at Toyota, that people are walking in there going, oh, man, look at that one over there. They're not saying that about an SR5. They're saying that about the most expensive packages. And those are ranging. We have stickers now in the last week that we've seen where it's real easy to spend $73,000 on a Toyota 4Runner.
Oh, yeah.
It's real easy to do. So, and I'm not picking on Toyota in this. I'm saying all of you guys out there that are saying something about price, I'm on your side, man. I don't want cars to be as expensive as they are. But I live in the real world. And this is the real world as we see it now. I think Ford is starting to say they're having trouble with some parts issues all of a sudden. Okay? Guys, this isn't going to get better. And for all of you that think the tariff thing isn't going to matter, that this isn't going to matter, that all these little ancillary things aren't going to matter, it's going to matter. I don't want it to be in place. I didn't want any of this. But if you're saying you're going to go out and find an awesome vehicle and you're going to pay $12,000 for it, cool, man, go find it. Give us a shout. We love to, pick up on some $12,000 vehicles we could, bring on the show and say, hey guys, here's a whole stock of them, go buy them. I mean, why wouldn't I do that? But that's not the world we're in. I mean, it's just like when we were having the mini truck conversation, like, yeah, this would make sense if it was $12,000. It's like $12,000. That's like 3 Big Macs in America right now. Like, what are you getting for $12,000, bud?
Just the Big Macs too, not the meal itself.
Yeah, you don't even get fries and a drink with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think people have to, and I think it's a lot of people, and I understand why. Everyone has a life. Most of you are doing this as a hobby. You just like to listen to car content, watch car content, fool around with your car on the weekends. But for the people in it, none of this is all that shocking because it's been a 5-year whirlwind with pricing. This is half a decade of a mess with pricing, so it doesn't catch guys like me off guard. To buy a really nice, lightly used Miata, with everything you want, $30,000's not out of the question. Now, can you go find a $15,000 Miata with some miles on it, beat up a little bit? Yeah, I'm not denying that. But every time we tell somebody to buy something used, there's 2 crowds. I don't buy used, and that's too used. It's like, well, okay, guys, what do you want to talk about then?
What I find interesting, too, I was thinking about this just over the past week, is that especially with all the constant, and it'll never end. Like, people talking about prices being too high or not low enough will never end, right? But when you look at, for example, millennials, maybe some elder millennials or slightly younger than even I or you, and they had a car. If they were lucky enough to get a car that was handed down to them, most of the times it was a very reliable car if you were young and you were lucky enough to get a Honda, Toyota, whatever. So imagine those people, already not into cars. They were kind of handed down a car. They drove it forever. They were able to drive it with little care, little repair. And then you get to the point where I have to upgrade this car. Like, I've had it for so long. and then
Yep.
you become new to the market, even though you're kind of old in age, and you don't know what's been happening over the last 10, 15 years. And then you kind of start getting into it because you have a family, maybe it's your own personal vehicle, and you start watching more videos, reviews, maybe you listen to a couple podcasts, you see Nick's face on the internet 200 times a month or something, and they're like, oh my God, they're freaking out. And I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? We have a lot of new people in the car market that aren't young, they're just new. They're young in the sense of we haven't bought a lot of cars. We haven't had a reason to look at prices or packages or trim levels.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my age, we're probably the last real generation that's bought a lot of cars by this age. Like
Sure.
a lot of people younger than me have just bought less cars than I bought compared to them at their age, right? So by the time I was 30, I had bought several cars, right? That was just sort of the generation that I grew up in. You look at it now, you know, you could be 30 years old. I mean, I'm thinking of a guy I know right now, 30 years old, and he's just now on the car lot for the first time as an adult.
30 years old?
30 years old. Because
Wow.
remember, like you just said, family handed something down, then he got a work vehicle,
Oh,
right?
Yep.
So
Forgot
I
about
mean,
that.
think about this. Like think about how this could happen. And it's not a judgment. It's one of these things that people have to realize. Like what you're saying is it does ring true to me, because buying cars by the time I was 21, I think I was like 3 different vehicles deep. You know, there's
Yeah.
guys I know that weren't 3 vehicles deep by 30. And that's not a judgment of them. That's just how their life played out, right? And I think we have to understand, guys, complaining about price is really fun to do. We all do it, okay? It's fun to say, I'm not going to spend this on that. And that's a fun thing in the car business. But when you really get down to you need to get something, you need to get really serious. You and I had a conversation about one of your friends, and she's like, I want something extremely fun and almost new for, 70 grand. It's like, what you're asking for, you're in the used market. And I mean, in some cases, she was in the 25, 30, 40,000 mile used club,
Yeah.
right?
that
For
kind
what
of,
she wanted.
four-door V8. Yes, exactly. For what she wanted.
Right? I mean, you're in Panamera territory. I mean, in Panamera, yes, I can get used. Yes, I can spend $70,000 on it. But for, if I want the turbo, if I want Turbo S, if I want, all of a sudden, you're getting up there. Now, for a guy like me, I go, well, Panameras pretty much look the same for like, I don't know. It would still look pretty new if I got a 2014. I'd be cool with that. She wasn't going to be cool with that.
No.
That's her money. That's her life. That's her decision. So you have limitations. Should it be this way? No, man, I vote with all you guys. It shouldn't be this way. But it is. So if we all want to buy cars, you got to live in the world that's here.
Yeah, and it makes sense that what I've been observing for a while, even well before we started Clutch Culture, is that there's a correction in the car media space, in the car space in general. Whether you're a sales guy, media guy, or just a consumer of everything all around, there is a correction taking place because of the amount of pools of people needing to do each thing: buy a used car, buy a new car, lease a car, whatever. But yeah, I just find it interesting. Like, I think we're all rooting for the same things, but because some people have been in it longer, it's hard, or shorter amount of time, it's harder for them to grasp what people that have been in it for a long time kind of already know. And they're like, yeah, like we say, like, obviously, come on, like, it's a no-brainer. But really, there's some youngins that are actually old in age that have never seen it. They've the first time going through it. 30 on the lot for the first time is wild to me.
Yeah, but again, think about this. You get handed down a decent car when you're 16. You drive that for 8 years. Then you get a company car. You may not have an issue. You don't have to get a car. Then all of a sudden it's
out
like,
of the house, and all of a sudden you need a car.
yeah, I mean, then it's like, okay, I'm 30, I'm 32, I'm 33. Maybe I've been on the car lot one time. By the time I'm 33 years old, and I'm getting onto it the second time in my life. But the last time I got on it was 6 years ago. Imagine going on the car lot 6 years ago and then going on the car lot for your second time being right now. Because 6 years ago was right before everything hit the fan.
It was sweet.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like buying a house. I mean, if you bought a house in 2016, 17, 18, then you went to go buy a house in 2023, you go, whoa, when I bought my house, I mean, it's only 7 years, but the world changed. Everything changed around real estate. And so you have to look at a lot of this stuff through the lens of we're on everyone's side. We wish it were different. But you also got to start living in the real world and go, okay, if I really want deals, I'm going higher mileage than I think, which was very different 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I got to go on the hunt nationally, which a lot of people are very uncomfortable doing. And I understand that. But everybody who's been doing this for any length of time, especially in the last decade, will tell you, you should be looking nationally at all cars. And that's what I think people don't do. That's what I think people don't do. They are looking at their little market that they're in, and they're going, this is my market. It goes, great. The national market is what we talk about. What is going on nationally, globally? Okay, I don't know what city you're in. I know what major cities are dealing with. Let's call it the top 25 most populated cities in America. The markets are pretty easy to understand, and things are fairly expensive.
For sure. I want to get back to walking on a lot, but before we do, if you're new to the show, this is the #1 car culture related podcast on the planet Earth, maybe even Mars. I don't know if Elon's been there and planted a satellite radio that we don't know about yet, but we talk about news, car trends, stuff like this, but more importantly, give you a good hang every single Monday. And if you haven't, leave us a review on Apple. Baker's Dad is still the most recent written review. Even though we have a lot of like 5 stars, we don't have a lot of written reviews. I want to hear the sweet nothings about us.
Rob is real insecure, and he wants you to tell us how great you think we are.
That's right. If you didn't already know that, you know that now. But look, walking on a lot, dude. What would it take, Nick, to walk on a lot and actually buy a Dodge Ram in 2025?
Dude, what news this is. What news this is, my
you
guy.
had to put down Old Yeller recently, but would you adopt or pick up a new one?
Man. So I'm an unfair person to ask for a Ram in this instance because I don't buy new vehicles. Okay. Yeah. And I told you my accountant like loses his mind. He's like, it would just help you and all this kind of stuff. So what a move they've chosen to make here. And I'll tell you, it's ballsy for a few reasons. The CEO of Ram knows they have quality control issues. If you guys know they have quality control issues, he knows they have quality control issues. So to go and it's 10 years, 100,000 miles is now almost a bumper to bumper. I mean, they really didn't leave a whole lot out that I could tell of any of the major components. Again, guys, if you've read through the fine print, please correct me. But it seems like a pretty legitimate, we're going to stand behind this. Mm-hmm. And this is where you call it the Honda Toyota plan. We're going to stand behind our stuff. We're going to get into the reliability game because, again, I think as prices have gone up, there's only one way for a company like Ram, a company like Ford, and a company like Chevy to combat what they're going to have to charge customers, and that is to get way more obsessed with reliability. And what a way to go out there and tell consumers, hey, we're going to stand behind our stuff. Now, for everybody celebrating this, let's talk about something else, Rob. Okay. You still have to get the truck fixed.
Right.
So that execution is where my question would be right now.
Have you had an issue with, because I know you don't buy a lot of new cars, but I know you do. You still buy, you got family cars, new cars.
Well, yeah, and I buy stuff for customers every day.
Right. But I mean, personally, I know that, the wife or you or whoever, you've had new vehicles, but when you have to ever go to get serviced, what's your experience with loaners? Because that was the first thing I saw. I was like, yeah, you're going to go to the dealership and then 0 loaners available for you to take back home.
Well, loaners have been an issue for a long time because you got to remember, supply was choked. It was choked off. So they weren't going to have, loaners weren't really an issue a decade ago because there was so much inventory on everyone's lot that they could always get you something. Loaners have been a problem for the last 5 years. I'm assuming they're going to be a problem the next 5 years.
Dude, it helps to know somebody because,
yes.
Across the board, always make relationships, shake somebody's hand, bring them donuts, breakfast, tacos, whatever, because you're going to end up seeing these people again. And that's the only way I know that I got loaner Volkswagens when I had my car in the shop a couple of times. Again,
now, I'll say what I think every dealership around here is probably way more acceptable of doing is they'll kind of refund you or reimburse you, I should say, for a lot of Uber trips. Hey, we'll pay you. Just keep your receipts, and if you got to Uber places that we got your car, they've instituted that. We haven't had trouble getting loaners, but you're talking about a lot of cars being purchased through a lot of different dealerships on my part, so I don't really have an issue getting a loaner. But also, there's also times that we just turn the loaner down. It's like, hey, you're only going to have my car for a day. Just give me an Uber here, an Uber there. And, I think some of it is a lot of people don't play nice. Mm-hmm. If you've been in the dealership 3 or 4 times and you're frustrated, I understand. But one of those times you got to kind of take the hit and go, hey, man, I'll just take the Uber this time. But the other 3 times, take the loaner. It's kind of what you said. That creates a relationship because everybody's stressed out.
Yeah.
Once your car goes into service, from the service manager to the service writers to the mechanics, everyone's stressed about you being in there multiple times. Okay.
Yes.
They don't want to see you. Doesn't
Not
matter
at
how
all.
nice you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's times like if you take the pressure out of the balloon, I think you get a lot more stuff. I think people are more willing to help you. I realize that's hard when you're going through a service problem. Like
Yeah.
we're all human. Like that shit gets
Sure.
on everyone's nerves. So I think you look at this and you go, but what a move by Dodge. I mean, well, excuse
Dude.
me, what a move by Ram. Like
Yeah.
this is really something big.
So as reported by CNBC, so Stellantis' Ram brand to offer industry-leading pickup truck warranty as part of the turnaround plan, which we can probably piggyback off of that a little bit more to the turnaround plan. But their key points were the warranty covers engine, transmission, transfer case, drive shafts, differentials, axles, 10 years, 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. It replaces Ram's current 5-year 60, which is pretty common. I've always thought
Yes.
5-year 60s are just like, can we get 80 even? Like I never really thought people would go
Yeah,
to 100.
it's run of the we call that run of the mill.
Yeah,
That's just a run of the mill minimum we can do.
dude, and I think now Volkswagen's gone down to like 40, 50, or 4 years 50, something like that.
Yeah, and again, it's the wrong move, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Ram is going to now set the standard. You're going to see what Ford, what Chevy, what these companies do coming behind it. If Ram now sets a standard and can live to the standard, which again is the question mark here. So while we're all patting them on the back, you still have to perform. Okay.
Yes.
And that's where we see this stuff have problems because I'll tell anybody this about Kia and Hyundai. You know, your car could sit there. They had a warranty, but your car could sit there. I've been in a lot of warranty situations that have gotten ugly from a lot of different brands. It's all about how you perform the warranty work. And you got to remember, I mean, you and I have been talking about this. Most dealerships are in a technician shortage. Okay. What are they going to pay the technicians to do the warranty work? Which means how well is the warranty work going to be performed? Because remember, if you work on these rushing the technicians flag hour for all those people that don't know how technicians are paid, it's a lot of, this is a 2-hour job. So if you can get it done in 1 hour, you make more money. You know what I mean? Like, so now it's about the performance at the dealership. And I hope it all goes well because this is an excellent plan. And this is kind of what we've said from the beginning about all of these consumer sub $100,000 brands. The more you get obsessed with reliability, the more you win. I mean, the playbook is there.
As we know today, it is across their entire 2026 vehicle lineup, so there wasn't anything excluded in the Ram lineup that we know of yet. And back to the turnaround, the part of their turnaround plan, what we got on the last week's video, on the long form video on YouTube, was somebody made a good point where it was like, hey, I see all this praise across the internet for them reintroducing the V8, talking about it, making that push, but they still need to make sales. And my point was, people asked for it and they delivered on the ask. So there's where the applause and praise is coming from. They gave them the choice of like, okay, we're going to bring V8s back if that's what you want. Sure, now we have to wait and see what the sales numbers look like, but let's be real, there's no way they're as bad as they have been when they reintroduced
Well,
this.
dude, you're going to be getting $100 leases on all of their electric stuff. I mean, we're right around the corner from them having to liquidate that inventory. So what they were doing was not a choice. At that point in time, this was not going to work. $75,000 for a Charger, Challenger, whatever, that electric, that wasn't going to work. We all knew it wasn't going to work, but they have now found out in the real world that it doesn't work.
What do the kids say these days? They fucked around and found out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, they definitely did. And that guy makes a great comment. We got to see what happens. But also you have to realize part of what Ram needed to bring back was the hype, what we are, get back to our core people, get back to bringing people in, take all these pissed off individuals, make them not pissed off anymore because we did this in such a haphazard way. All of that kind of stuff, you do have to applaud. But yes, there's always a caveat. And the warranty caveat in any type of warranty situation, I don't care if it's your appliances at home or in the car business, a lot of this stuff is poorly handled. A lot of this stuff is just BS marketing and they don't really stand behind it. And if they do stand behind it, you get massively inconvenienced. So now, and I think the head of Ram has proven he's a really smart guy. And now he's done it multiple times, leaving and coming back and all that kind of stuff. I think the thing you have to wonder here is, do they have the wherewithal to actually do this right on the service side of things? If they do, this will probably be a big turnaround story for that brand. I mean, this could be the catapult they've been looking for. But
100%.
if over the next 2 years it gets out into the world that you're not really servicing these trucks in a timely manner, you're not really taking care of warranty claims, this is all BS, this could backfire. So we're aware of both. This is now performance-based. You've said all the right things. Now it's time to perform. We'll see what happens.
Have you seen the ad on their official Instagram page?
Oh, 100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have? Okay, good. Then I'm not going to play it here. People, go to Ram Trucks Instagram. It's an incredible video. It's got a bald eagle as the cover photo. So it's the first thing.
Hey, dude. Hey,
It's great. I love it.
We always say this. Lean into what you are, man. This is what you are. You know,
And
you're
they
you're
use
an
the- Go ahead.
you're an American rowdy brand. That's what you've
right.
been. And they're getting back. This guy is really freaking smart, man.
Yeah,
This is
man.
a real. Of all of the bad people in the automotive business that don't get it, this guy's in the right company with the right attitude, with what he thinks needs to be done. He always has done really well by the Ram brand. So
Since we started the show. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, if you want to bash executives, you also got to find the ones and go, this person gets it. And he, at this point in time, execution matters, but so far, he's proven once again that he understands that brand.
Tim gets it, man. I can't pronounce the last name. What is it?
Kaniskus or something like that?
Kaniskus? I believe so, yes. They've brought back everything that I've mentioned since we started the show, including in this recent ad with Dana White being the narrator, George Washington and the Challenger. Like, I was like, okay, check it off the box. They're doing all the right things. All you need back is John Heffron and John Reap to do that. That thing got a HEMI in it. I know the
And they
Diesel
did it.
brothers, they're cool too, but you need the old school guys.
Yeah, you got to celebrate it. We can't just bash people because not everybody's bad.
Yeah. With that said, would you buy a new truck? would you make one of your work trucks possibly a Dodge Ram in the future if in 2 years, 24 months, all things say yes, good service, good quality, it's great.
Yes, that'd be a no-brainer. Look, I'm a guy. I put over 250,000 miles on a Dodge Ram, an old HEMI. Look. Dodge has only ever worried me as an experienced Dodge owner for a very long time. They have electric bugaboos that they've always had. If you can be okay with that part of it, because let's be fair, you're going to have to worry about something with every manufacturer. Electrical stuff can get kind of gnarly in a Dodge brand. If they get this if they do this warranty thing right, I think you'd be silly not to trust them. But again, right now, would I trust them? I would be just as leery as most people listening to this, because this is new. You don't know how much of the quality stuff in the factory they figured out. You know, none of us can know that. This is all going to be in practice. So yeah, 24 months from now, man, if they're building good stuff and if they make a mistake, they fix it, you have no reason not to support any brand that does that. I mean, I think this is the Chevy conversation right now. Mm-hmm. If Chevy would have came out and said, we're going to replace all these engines, instead of just put a heavier oil in that we told you not to use just 6 months earlier, I think people would have a different thought process right now. So there is an instance where things go wrong, and for most of us, we go, they didn't really step up and do what we thought they should do. That has uncertainty in the market. Ram cannot survive any more uncertainty. So they got to step up and do this correctly. That's my take on it.
Well, here's another brand that can't, take any more hits. And man, if we go back a decade, I mean, I wish I could go to the archive of appearances I've made on other shows talking about these kind of subjects, not even just car stuff, but just worldly stuff. And I'm like, there's no way that in the next decade, we don't see the pendulum coming back the other way. So one of my favorite brands, Audi, alters its plans, will keep making gas engines past 2023. So the CEO, he reportedly said there's no deadline on the all-EV lineup, and ICE development will continue to maintain flexibility. Well, no shit.
Yeah, no, well, we have to understand, and I'm not letting Audi or Porsche or anyone globally off the hook on this. Mercedes probably had, the quickest, hey, we screwed up, we're going to fix it. The EV thing was just a lot of people following the lead of a lot of other people and not really thinking through it. And that's what makes Toyota very, very rare. I mean, the Toyota CEO is coming out and actually bashing EV and saying, hey, for every 3 hybrids, it's the same as an E. I mean, that takes strong leadership, and that also takes, when you're in Japan, you're a Japanese automaker, you're really celebrated. A lot of these European car brands are not celebrated, they're villainized, and they've been villainized for a long time. Now, you all can say that doesn't matter, but to executives, it does matter because they're the ones talking to the government. And so the government is like, you're going to do this, and they're just like, okay, and when you're in Japan, you're kind of isolated. You're not really in, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on. You're obviously a global brand, but you're more celebrated as a car company in Japan than what the Euros have done to their own brands, right? Like, it's not celebrated to be building cars. Look, we have pretty big signs that, with some things going on globally, it's really hard to manufacture cars in Europe right now. Like, from a supply issue, there's some money issues going on that are hampering these people. For anybody into the political side of things, Europe's manufacturing base has really been hammered here in the last 5 years for a lot of different reasons. Their power costs alone are starting to drive things up. Not to get too deep down that road, we all know that this is what should have happened, but you also got to tell the other side of the story of, there's a lot of villainizing going on inside of Europe to these European brands, and it's done them no favors as well.
Oh, what a great phrase. I'm going to take that part out and make that into a shirt. Like, the way that they have been villainized, these car manufacturers in their own country and in the rest of the world as well. But when you compare it to something like Toyota or just Japanese makers, like, you're absolutely right. That is so true, dude. Like, this was like an aha kind of epiphany phrase that I've not heard anybody else say like that. You're absolutely right. By the way, the Toyota math, if you want to know, the Toyota math from their chairman was 9 million EVs are just as polluting as 27 million hybrids.
Yeah, and let's kind of say this out loud. When it comes to this environmental stuff, everybody has their own math. Mm-hmm. I don't know where all the math comes from. Everyone's math, from the people that are environmentalists to the people that are anti, doing anything, everyone's math comes from a different place somehow.
Yeah.
We all need to say that out loud. I mean, this is his opinion based on the studies they have done and the numbers they have used.
Right.
He could be completely right. I don't really know. If anybody out there thinks they know, I don't think you know. I mean, we just don't know. I mean, you look at rare earth minerals and the situation we have going globally, which I think is what Ford is basically saying publicly, is like they're being really harmed by some tariff stuff and some, political situations. How true is it? You take them at their word, but I don't know if it's incompetence by them, if it actually is the global situation. So we all have to say this: when you get into these big car companies, for generations, they've just said stuff and we've all had to take their word for it. Yeah. And then like 10 years later, we find out the real story and go, oh, that guy was full of it. Or, yeah, that guy was exactly right. So could Toyota be right about these numbers? Yes, but this has been my whole conversation about why you should be middle of the road on EVs. Because everybody uses their own math. Everybody's using their own system. Nobody has a baseline for how any of this stuff is calculated, that everyone's using the same baseline. That'd be like everybody just using a different way to measure wheelbase, right? And you would have no idea what measurement system. That'd be like, this guy's using a Dewey Decimal System to give you the wheelbase, and this guy's using the metric system, and this guy's using, inches, and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I think is crazy about. Could he be right? Yeah, he could be right. I just think this whole EV situation is so crazy with all the math everyone does that I don't believe any of it.
That's funny. Well, to put a pin in the Audi, and actually I have a video from Haggerty. They have a V8 showdown with European Autobahn cruisers, but I really hope they can also have some sort of a turnaround plan where we see more of, we all like the big V8 Audi RS6 Avant, but you just don't see a lot of them. You probably won't see more of them, but as long as we continue to see them, period, I think it's a good sign for that enthusiast market.
100%.
Same thing for the RS3s. You get the Mini, you get the half the V10. That 5-cylinder is incredible. Please keep making those so that we can at least have that in the world still. And if it's out there, buy it. Buy it if you can.
And I think one of the things we have to realize is that the price on those are going to go up.
Yeah.
If they stay in the ICE engine, you guys have to be prepared. Now they're going to be having two separate companies running this EV company, basically, then running this ICE company. Costs are going to go up. That's what's going to happen. People can see it any way that they want, but that's what's going to happen.
All right, I got a palate cleanser. I want you to pick a car at the end of this video that you would go if you were going to buy one today out of these. And I'm going to try to not blow everybody's eardrums, so I'm going to make sure the volume's down a bit for everyone when I hit play. All right, ready? Keep this in mind. Cruiser, Autobahn, German. Here we go.
The station wagon has been dead for decades, they say. Well, they are wrong, because 2 of the hottest cars on sale today are wagons, and a third is coming. Mercedes has just confirmed the return of the hot E-Class AMG wagon. This is not that. However, as a placeholder, we have a body style that's even more at risk of extinction than the wagon, the sedan. If you look at the sales numbers for the Mercedes S-Class and Porsche Panamera, they're on life.
Camisa just speaks
Let's
my
rev
language.
up our death rattles and see which of these non-SUVs can wheeze its way down the track for the record of the quickest sedan-y wagon you can buy.
All right.
I'm going to tell you, man, I like Panamera.
I love Panamera.
Yeah, so out of that, I would choose a Panamera.
I would still probably go. Go ahead. I go Audi still, but it's close.
Look, I don't think you could go wrong, but here's where I'm at. I want to own a Panamera, so I think I'm going to be biased because I've been down the Panamera rabbit hole in my searches at times. Well, actually, before buying the LX, I was down the Panamera rabbit hole. I think what they're saying, I mean, look, M5 Touring, RS6, those types of things, they sell and they are sought after, which is great news for all of us, right? Which is whether you're into wagons or not, the car companies know that they're an enthusiast type of car. And if those can have success, then they're going to build more on a smaller scale. Maybe they'll do smaller sizes. Maybe they'll bring other stuff in. But to me, he said what we all know to be true. I mean, the sedan's not selling, and it being one of my favorite experiences is a large sedan. I think I'd have to support those to make sure they keep getting built.
I agree with you, man. And when I was younger, I've always liked the big body, the 4-door, just the wagon hatches, that kind of stuff. And when I was more of an impressionable car enthusiast, and I would hear these conversations about these sedans or these big cruiser wagons or whatever. They were so like, ugh, you're like a sedan, right? The Panamera, the whole thing. Oh, that's gay. Like, bro, what? Gay? Like, those things are awesome. Like, what are you talking about? So, but slowly but surely, I would rethink that. Like, are they gay? Do I really want a Panamera? I'm like, I actually do. I think they're awesome.
There's a lot of people that hate them, I have a lot of customers that would never buy them. I would try to push them and say, hey, if you're trying to get in the Porsche family, try this. They'd rather buy a Cayenne. I understand. There's a lot of people. And I don't know how much this has really been talked about, but the Porsche CEO was a really tall guy, and one of the rules about Panameras, he wanted to be able to sit in the back. Okay, so part of that little back hump that everybody complains about is sort of to give you more space in the back of that car. So while you may not love the look of it, there was an actual purpose, I believe, that it served, which is gave you a little bit more headroom, a little bit more breathing room if you rode in the back. So from an engineering perspective, they did the Panamera right as a sedan, like to solve some of the problems that were going on, which is everybody was building a sedan with a more, aggressive rake on the back. You were getting more sporty sedans where the back seats became less and less useful. You can see this sometimes even in sporty SUVs. I mean, you used to get back in the back of an X6. That back seat was not that friendly. I mean, for guys that were taller, because you had that strong rake of the back of the car or the back of the SUV. So I think you have to celebrate Panamera because I do think they thought it through. They did try to fix some of the things that were going on, but I also understand why people thought it was ugly, right? Because it just had a weird back end to it, and you go, "What's that like tiny hump that looks like kind of?" But that was from my understanding and from things that were said publicly, that was sort of them trying to solve like you being a little bit more comfortable in the back seat. I think there is no experience like a wagon, especially if you actually need space. This is what makes, and I wish AMG wagon and Mercedes had done a little bit more marketing around the AMG wagon. Now, again, you're still in that problem of $120, $130, $150, $160,000. But on the used market, the AMG wagon is sort of the ultimate thing that we all search out. And I think if we get enough of them, RS6 will come into that, and then BMW M5 Touring, and all of that stuff will come in. The used market looks pretty bright if you're a wagon person and they keep going down this road.
Absolutely, and I hope that a show like this kind of makes it more popular, because I'm not lying to you when I say I don't know of any creators over the last 15 plus years that have made that particular car, the Panamera, a cool sought after car. They're like, oh, it's nice, it's
No,
there.
you're kind of like somebody that kind of sticks behind it is like the Hoovies and the Demuros. I think they've kind of talked about what you can get. You can get a lot of Panamera if you're willing to go used. Like if you go back to 2012, 2014, 2016, probably now even 2018, 2019, you can get a lot of frickin' car with all the modern amenities for a very nice price, because again, they're not beloved, so the prices don't stay insane for forever. You can get a lot of car. And again, that's kind of why people have to understand when I talk, I'm not normally talking about what the new price is. It's like, how much car can I get in the used market? And Panamera is one of the top that you can get a lot of car in a used market.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and I hope that we continue to see more of them. Bouncing back and forth, I like to try to do this because there's so much news and interesting topics in both ICE and EV kind of world, and you probably know a lot more about this one than I would, but yeah, report Ferrari is apparently delaying its second EV.
Yeah,
That pair,
I saw
did you see
this.
this? Dude,
That-
by the way, that Parasangwe video that we put out a couple of days ago hit on every social platform, and people were really upset that we called you called the Parasangwe a consumer high volume car. I forgot what phrase.
no,
we
no, it's
used.
just a higher volume car for them.
Yes, higher. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, it's all. I get we're not all buying a pure sangue here. I mean, I'm very aware we're not all in the market for one. But I mean, look, they're selling. There's a waiting list. How long will the waiting list stay? Who knows? And some of the features that some of the add-ons are pretty insane. There's a creator, if you're interested in the Purasangue, that I think did it the best. Is if you ever want to really dive into that platform, Harry's Garage, which is like one of my favorite guys to watch. Like he's an old school, very very straightforward, very honest. Been around the block. He takes it on a snow trip. Obviously he's in the Alps, and it's like right on. I think it's where he's at. So, but I'll say this, that Ferrari, being a publicly traded company, they need something to move. Like we know the Urus is not a consumer SUV, guys. It's expensive. But for those brands, that's how they dip their toe in, is in these types of platforms. And so Ferrari saying we're kind of not doing the EV means they went to their customer base, which they have a very reactive customer base. So what would happen is they would announce something. If you just walk through this with me, they announce something. They go to their dealer network. Their dealer network calls every dealer has their 100 best clients or whatever. They go, hey, would you like to put a pre-order in for this? They go, no. And they know pretty quick whether we should be moving on to the second iteration of that thing. And I think that's what's happening.
Yes, the tagline, dude, is Ferrari's second EV is reportedly being pushed back until 2028 due to, quote, zero demand from
zero.
customers.
That means they probably literally had like 2 out of thousands of people that said, put me on the list.
Nick
So,
nailed it.
and they are one of the few brands that can probably get a real reading very quickly, which makes some of their decisions that they've made in their history even more head-scratching, because they can literally just go, do you want to buy one? And most Ferrari owners are like, yay or nay. It's that simple. They go, hey, do you want to get on the list? Yes. Do you want to get on the list? No. And that's what happened here. My guess is they kind of put some feelers out, and a lot of top Ferrari buyers go, don't call me with this. I'm not interested in that.
I was in the middle of taking a sip of my drink, and you said what I was thinking. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't explain some of the decisions in the recent.
It doesn't, but you got to realize, man. I mean, there's some things they're just going to do. They're just going to do something. I mean, it's like, how many people really want a Ferrari California? Not very many, but they need some cheaper cars to pawn off on people, move some volume through the factory. Like that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And when you look at this, they are in the middle of a Titanic type of shift for them. Mm-hmm. They have never built something in the SUV market. They've never built a more consumable product. Again, I know that's not everybody, but amongst their crowd, they've never been in like the higher volume consumable type of stuff. And they're going to have some flops. They're going to have some stop, we're not doing that. They're going to have some things that work. You're in the middle of probably a 10-year period of seeing a whole new Ferrari that you've never seen, which is the same for Lambo now. I mean, Lambo just started earlier. I mean, this is kind of a. I mean, did you think you'd be driving a Urus? You'd see so many Uruses around? Of course not. You didn't think that was going to be Lambo's future, but it's their future now.
It's exciting, man. It's exciting if you like all those kind of cars. It's, more than just your consumer brands to see what they do and what decisions they make. I got one here that's really near and dear to my heart because it tells me one of two things. One is that I'll never get to own a Honda, an Acura NSX, or because of this decision, I might be able to get one and actually maintain it.
Oh, is this the parts thing?
Dude, Honda will soon sell brand new parts for your old NSX. So next spring, 2026, Honda will introduce a new parts program for its heritage models, starting with the iconic sports car, the NSX.
This is
How cool. Right
this
move.
is something that Honda and Toyota are going to battle with, because one of the things that we see, because I am in an older Toyota product, they got to make these parts more readily available. I mean, just think about this. I couldn't get Lexus floor mats for my 2003.
Wild. People don't know how long we talked about those floor mats.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't. I mean, now, again, I know all of you that are eBay hunters. I'm an eBay hunter for this type of stuff. That was even hard to find. We can find used, but the fact I can't go on LexusParts.com and just order the floor mats, it does seem kind of bonkers for brands that say our cars last forever. I mean, it kind of seems crazy that things are hard to get. And we see this across a lot of Toyota and Honda stuff where, what was the Acura story where they're not going to support one of the Acura software models? Remember you and I were, and you go, there's the next thing, boys. Yep. The next thing is when they start cutting off the updates to your software of these. And by the way, we're not talking about super new cars. I mean, some of this was like going back to 2014, 15,
12,
16.
Yeah, 12, 14, something like that. Yeah.
Throughout their whole brand, because they've gotten rid of that software system and gone to a new updated one. And now they don't want to support it and this and that. Man, it goes back to that old, thing we all know in the car world. Technology does not age well. Go back to those early navigation screens that you see in a BMW or you see in a Mercedes or you see in a Toyota, whatever. I mean, those are pretty heinous looking. I got one right here in my shop right now that I can look at every day. Technology does not age well. It's never aged well. It's never going to age well. But what are you going to do when they don't support the system that's in your car anymore? I think this is going to be an interesting thing. And I feel like, Rob, do you feel like you're going to see regulators step in and go, hey, you put the software in the car. You got to support the software.
You have to, dude. That is crazy, especially if we're talking about a 2015. Like, that's peak car for most of these brands, and you're going to stop supporting it? That's crazy.
And it kind of shows you how far Acura's fallen, is it wasn't even a big story. You know, if you go back to Acura, like Legend, if you go back to the TL, if at that time had they said, hey, we're not going to support X, Y, and Z, it would have been huge news because that brand was really doing well. It shows you how far Acura's fallen, that essentially this is a non-story, but it's not a non-story. It's foreshadowing what I think a lot of car manufacturers are going to say, which is, hey, we're on this whole new tech platform. I don't even have people that can, write the code or understand, those people are gone, and what do we do? And I think regulators, it feels like sometime in the future, are going to step in and go, hey, you can't just cut that off.
And a lot of the people that I know that own the nicer Acuras, they're all older people today, meaning they've had a couple of these Acuras. And if you don't support the stuff that they bought, like, they're going to let it be known. They will not be buying your products. They're going to tell all the ladies at the country club, the people at the church will know. They're going to be a huge hit for that brand.
Yeah. And it's a brand that can't afford it, right? I mean, they're basically, the only thing they sell is RDX. I mean, I don't think anything else sells. I mean, literally, when I say I don't think anything else sells, I think everything's down 20, 30, 40, 50%. Yeah. When you look at this, and we said this last week or the week before, the MDX is really nice. I mean, that's a nice vehicle. I think the problem that they have is when you announce things like this, it's pretty, under the radar because you're not such a big brand, but it'll spread like wildfire amongst the people that own your brand and maybe would have upgraded to the next iteration, and you might make them mad enough to go, I'm not going to buy another one. I think it was a strange thing if you said I don't want to support a 2005, I kind of understand, but something made in the last decade, you're already cutting off support, seems kind of strange.
Kind of strange, and we got other things to cover in this episode, and I'll save one of these topics that I have for next week, which is essentially the full list of what we can expect for EVs from each brand that we can go through. And the first one, I'll mention it because we're talking about Acura, is their first EV, which is the ZDX, but it's going to come out with the name of the RSX. So you're reviving the RSX brand name, which is an incredible little car if you were a fan back in the day, as their first EV called the RSX, but it's really the ZDX. And it's just like, why are you doing this when you have so many cool cars right now that you could support?
I don't know, man. I say this all the time. It's sort of like what we'd all say about Ford Lightning. Think it was the wrong use of the name. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the wrong use, right? I mean, that's a beloved street truck that had a cult following. If you want to reintroduce it the right way. If you're trying to live off its heritage with nothing attached to its heritage, that doesn't normally do well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sort of we've seen the revitalization of Bronco. It had a gas engine, right? This is why Scout probably is going to struggle. You're going to have really no connection to what people believe in the Scout brand, what it once was, whatever. I hope it does well because I think it's cool they have it, and maybe if they stick around long enough, they'll put a nice engine in them. But when I look at this, you got to have some connection to something you're bringing back, and maybe that's what you could kind of say about Supra. That Supra didn't feel like it was connected, and you can go through these ones that don't feel like they're connected to anything. I think this was like the NSX thing. NSX was kind of an everyman's nice middle-of-the-road priced, sports car for a very long time. Hey, we're going to reintroduce it, and it's $185,000. Probably didn't catch the heritage of it, and it didn't do well. I mean, again, it was a great car, but it didn't catch the essence of what that heritage had been built off of, which was it was a good sports car that almost everybody could own.
So to put a pin in the NSX and the Honda parts announcement, what do we do, Nick? Are we going on Marketplace and trying to find an old beat up one that we can fix next year? Are we holding on to what we have?
Dude,
What do we do?
You want to talk about a car you kick yourself because you are old enough.
Oh, yeah.
I'm old enough. Those vehicles were cheap for a very long time. Every one of us that looked at them and looked at them and looked at them, we deserve what we've gotten because we didn't pull the trigger.
Slapping.
We all knew. We all knew.
We knew.
We couldn't, so for all of you that blame the car market, let's blame ourselves here. Buddy, I probably have 10 friends of mine, all individually they don't know each other, that would send each other NSX, like, hey, did you see this one came up for, and this is like a decade ago. Did you see this one's up for sale? This is pretty cool. And I'm like,
buy one?
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. Of course not.
That's crazy.
No, because you just thought it was, here's the thing, because you never thought it was going to end, right? That's why you don't buy them, because you go, they're always available. They're always, $38,000 or $42,000. Like, at the end of the day, that is one of them that we all have to kick ourselves about because everyone knows how good of a car that is.
Well, if it flies under the radar, everybody, maybe we can get lucky and a couple of people in you'll have a barn find of an NSX like we were talking about last week where it's like, hell yeah.
Hey, I got some DMs. People are like, I love barn finds. I'm like, cool, man. Not my thing when you're telling me how great this, 300Z from the 90s is, it just doesn't excite me. Sorry, man.
Great stories. All right, look, we got a ton of emails still from our last batch. We expect more hopefully next week, guys, to continue. We might eventually end up doing shows down the road where we just do like half the show is just some of these questions, but I do want to ask at least one to Nick here. So let's go with this one just because we talked about it last week. JV writes, gray market vehicles. Guys, I follow an Insta account for a junkyard crusher in Illinois. It's basically the owner looking for all the rust buckets that have come up to be scrapped. The other day, a guy brought a 2009 C63 AMG wagon that he shipped from Switzerland. He couldn't register it, didn't want to ship it back, or get it up to U.S. standards, so he brought it to be crushed. Do you have any of these interesting experiences with the gray market cars? And what would you have done in this case? When I hear about gray market, I think about the 930 turbos that were shipped in the 80s or the 959s. Have a great week. Thanks, JV.
Yeah, I have some of these stories. I mean, the most legendary one is the one I said, $250,000. It was a present to somebody in the family. It actually was built in Florida with a Coyote engine in it, completely redone interior, Defender. Just awesome. I mean, so it arrives. We notice that there's some issues. Turns out to get the Coyote engine in there, again, in Las Vegas, we are under the... we have emission standards here. Evidently, they cut off some of the things to actually get through the emission standards here. We have a gentleman who is basically from Europe who's the head of the DMV. And he tries to act like he knows everything about those 90s Defenders. it gets blacklisted. We can't register it. Still to this day, it just sits. It's a paperweight. We had attorneys involved, and I mean powerful attorneys involved with a very powerful individual here. It just got blacklisted, and F you, you're not getting it. Like it, and if you guys try to go somewhere else, like I'll make your life. I mean, it was a really bad situation.
Wow.
I will say this: gray market vehicles are very dependent on where you're trying to register them in the United States. There's friendlier, some of you call it the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. We call it the DMV. Here, I will say this: there is a way for all of these governments, whether that's federally or your state, to make money on these vehicles. Mm-hmm. The problem is you got to realize nobody in these organizations that are running the government are car people.
Yeah.
So they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know, hey, I'm willing to go do this, or, hey, why don't you just tell me the process? So I will say, here's what we found about gray vehicles. It's very state dependent. Okay. Not always. There's some federal things that come into play, like import and time frame. I understand all that. But we've had stuff here in Vegas that was no headache coming from overseas, coming from anywhere. But I've had stuff in America that was retrofitted with an engine, and it's become a huge fiasco. Not even imported, right? So I think the thing about the gray area, the gray area of this type of stuff is it's so largely dependent on, like, you could probably get a different decision on stuff if you were in Austin, Houston, Dallas.
That makes
right?
sense.
I mean, people don't think they think I'm kidding. Like, I have proof of it. Like, we know more friendly, quote unquote, DMVs here in Las Vegas. Like, just, hey, let's take this car to this place, and let's, don't go to that one. Don't put this on the radar. So, yeah, man, I mean, and largely, if you do things right, and there's companies and people you can work with that make the process a lot more easy. There's a lot of importers that are doing excellent work, and a lot of them that aren't. But if you get the right import company, they're going to give you the story before the car lands. Like, hey, if you buy this car, this isn't going to work. If you do this is going to work, that kind of thing. So it really is one of those things that you're better off when you import a car. Going through a high-level import company will save you a lot of headache. I mean, but I've had rebuilds here in America that got treated worse than stuff we imported, like 1,000 times worse.
Jeez, man. Again, going back to knowing the right people, right places to go.
Well, buddy, we knew all the right people, and it still didn't matter in this instance.
It didn't work. All right. Well, there you go. Sometimes you get screwed up.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a guy gets a hair up his ass, and it's a wrap. So, I mean, we've done a pretty good job navigating it for customers, but I tell you, man, you gotta also be very aware that they could just say, put the hammer down on you and go, you're not getting it in. You're not going to register it.
Let's try to get to another one here. Nathan writes, new listener, guys, no question today, but I discovered the podcast when I saw a clip you confirming my fears about the new Land Cruiser and have powered through a lot of the catalog in the past couple of weeks. Thanks, Nathan. As a 07 LX 470 owner. What's yours, 04? 03?
03.
03.
Yeah, so he's got a little bit more horsepower in his, though. 06, 07, a little bit more horsepower. Good for you.
Yeah, and how many miles do you have, Nick?
138.
He's got 220. So he's really been putting it through the paces. I really appreciate any discussion on this project as well as a decision process to stick with it or move on from an older car. After putting $6,000 into mine this last year, I'm wrestling with moving on to something new. I've decided to stay with my 07 just to accept the fact that I'll be doing weekend jobs to keep the old lady running until I can get my hands, until he can hand it off to one of his kids. See you guys next Monday. Do you find a lot of people do that, right? You made a good point of, like, once you're in the platform, you're probably going to stay with the platform.
Yeah, and again, for all of the Toyota fanboys, this is the reason to own a Toyota, which is to keep it alive, right? That essentially you can keep it alive longer, or your argument is I can keep it alive longer than any other car. But we're going to have this conversation, I think, pretty regularly over the next 5 years of doing this. A lot of us with older cars are going to have to start doing the work. And I know a lot of us don't. I know a lot of us do. But there's a large percentage of people that haven't really done that type of work, and they're going to have to start doing it. You got a technician problem that is now just in its infancy. The next 5 years, technicians are going to be out of the business if things don't change drastically in the pay structure and all those kinds of things. So if you are able to do the work, Nathan, I think you keep the vehicle. That doesn't mean everything. You're not going to tear the engine down or anything like that. But if you can do all your maintenance and little odds and ends jobs, maybe do a radiator, do your alternator, and kind of keep this thing going, then I'm always going to vote for that, because it sounds like you love the platform. You're not in a hurry. You don't love nothing's. If you told me, should I sell it because I love this other thing, then I'd always tell you to sell it and go get that thing you love. When you say I don't love what I'm seeing and I'm not excited about something else, I think that's your answer right there. Because I'm always going to tell you, if you upgrade and you're unhappy, it wasn't worth upgrading, and you just paid a lot of money to upgrade, right? So kind of our first rule on this podcast of buying a car, and I don't care if it's a family car or your car, make sure you like the car. Because the number one reason people trade their stuff in is they end up hating what they're driving. If you like what you're driving and you're not excited about something else, then just go ahead and keep pouring into that thing.
Great advice. All right, let's go back to the rundown for one more thing. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, if you even have any. By the way, what do you pay for gas typically, if you even look? I know I honestly don't even.
I think it's like right now we're like $4.70.
Okay. In California, for a lot of people that don't know, or if you do, they usually have a lot of increased taxes on their gas, right? So they're going to have another one come July 1st, upwards of, I believe, 65 cents. I've read accounts of gas.
And that'll trickle down to us. So Las Vegas is very similar to California, whether people know it or not. It's not a direct correlation, but yeah, I mean, I'm still at $4. It didn't matter who got elected. I've been hearing about cheaper gas. I haven't had cheaper gas in a long time. So I know there's a lot of people out there that pay $2 something. I haven't seen $2 something in a decade. So I mean, we're always hovering, somewhere between $3.90 and $5.50.
Okay, damn. Well, if you're in California, I don't know, maybe go to your local officials and try to get some things changed. The lawmakers might listen to you. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they've ever turned it around. The prices only keep going up. Yep. If you see $8 gas soon, it won't be long before you start seeing $10 gas.
Last time I was in California, true story, I was in a beach town in San Diego. Somehow the car, when I wasn't driving, it got ran like to the light was on, which I don't really do. And so I had to go to the nearest gas station. I paid over $7.
God.
That was 36, maybe 37 months ago, something like that. Three and a half years, maybe.
Dude.
Yeah, 7 something.
All right. I got two things for you now that we're done with today's rundown. These are just personal stories. Over the weekend, the wife last year surprised me with tickets to Metallica. Favorite band.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen them. Dude, it was amazing. And co-headlining with Pantera, my second favorite band. It was a bucket list.
Cemetery Gates? Did they play Cemetery Gates?
They didn't play it. It was crazy. I was so pissed. They did finish with Cowboys from Hell, which was incredible.
Nice.
Zach Wilde killed.
Hey, what about Metallica playing Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech? That was a sweet video.
It was incredible. Great video. And they did finish with Enter Sandman, which, I mean, as many times as everybody's heard it, when you see a lot of it,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter.
So two things about this trip. It was in Houston, so it wasn't far of a drive. We made it just like a day trip, came back the next morning, stayed at a hotel. But I got to experience, I hate, by the way, Uber, Lyft. I hate that whole thing. I hate that world. I know you're a big fan of it. You just grab an Uber, grab a Lyft. I don't care. I want a car. But I got to ride in a Navigator Black Label.
Oh, yeah.
And, bro, first thing I did when I got in there, I was like, holy shit, Nick is absolutely right about this thing.
No question.
Incredible.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Okay, so if you haven't ridden in it and you still think the Escalade's better, just go find one, please.
I'm telling you, it's the seats. It's
very
the
comfortable,
seats.
so plush, very just roomy. It feels
it's luxury.
good.
So this is what I've said. They nailed luxury SUV. Where I think when I sit in an Escalade still to this day, I'm like, why are these seats so hard? It's a luxury vehicle.
Absolutely.
And look, everybody's going to disagree, whatever platform you like. I understand. When I think of luxury, I don't think of why are these seats this hard. I just don't think of it.
This guy must have used every HyperClean product on the market, hypercleanstore.com for those products, because it was in immaculate condition.
I love those. Uber and Lyft drivers out there that listen to us, and maybe you're listening to us driving around, when your car is sparkly clean, that's what makes the ride.
Absolutely.
Dude, you can drive as slow as you want. You can drive as crazy as you want. If I'm sitting there and your ride is clean, that's what you're looking for.
Now, after the show, that was actually that was after we ate. So after the show, what got us to the restaurant after we left NRG, which by the way, 75,000 people was a Metallica record for a concert. Insane to get in and out of that place. It was cool. What I'm tired of here now, let's go the opposite way. Loved it. The Navigator was awesome. What I'm really tired of is EVs, and not for the reason you might think, but maybe. I'm just tired of hearing this really loud vacuum take off from light to light.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
stupid.
annoying.
It's
I
stupid.
hate it so
Yeah,
much.
I mean, and I'm pretty sure almost every EV you can turn it off. I mean, I'm sure you can go into the infotainment. A lot of that stuff can be turned off. But to their defense, if it doesn't make a noise, like people walk out in front of you and you like almost clip human beings.
Sure,
So
that's a good point.
There's a twofold, but you're exactly right. I mean, we went a little too Jetsons. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it wasn't cool.
but it wasn't like cool Jetsons. Right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have that, that noise that they made at the beginning of the show. Like, I mean, for me, I'm with you. The only cool thing about, especially if you get in like a Model X or something, a bigger,
That's what it was.
Okay.
That's what it was.
The only cool thing about that is it is a real calming ride. You're just like,
It is.
it's pretty quiet in here.
Was. Yeah, my wife was like, "Wow, this is actually really nice."
Yeah, and
like,
the fact that Pantera didn't play Cemetery Gates, I'd have been fired up. So I need to get into a calmer vehicle.
Exactly. That's a very good point. Actually, the Navigator was just as calming. I'm not
Oh
gonna lie.
yeah, it's great, man. It's a great platform. Yeah. And again, we're not brand loyalists here. Whatever's good is whatever's good.
And that, honestly, to put a pin in the show and land the plane, that might be one of the reasons why we upset some people, because they can't nail us down for one specific thing. They're like, man, these guys are all over the place. They root things on. They shit on everything. Like, you just don't know.
Yeah, we just try to have common sense about it. And if somebody's making something, that's why you got to root on what Dodge is going to do or what Ram's going to do. For me, if they pull this off, man, yeah, feel comfortable buying their trucks. I mean, right now it's not in place, meaning like I don't know what their quality control is. But if you get 2 years down the road and it's nothing but good news, great, man. I'm happy they did it.
All right, well, everybody, check out what Nick's developing with his team over at HyperClean, hypercleanstore.com. And we're going to have a platform very soon, sometime in the summer, where we can all congregate online somewhere from all the social platforms that we get contacted from to one hub somewhere down the line. It is in the works. But that's all I got for you, brother. We'll see you next week.
All right, guys.